stay in New York. I recently graduated from Columbia University. I am pleased to welcome Runal. She's a very good friend of mine. She graduated in BSc Economics honors from Symbiosis University. After that, she went for her abroad education to UK, where she did her MSc in International Business from University of Birmingham. And after that, she is a current PhD student in management with a focus on Buddhist economics from in the same university, which is University of Birmingham in UK. She's also working as a lecturer of business studies at Global Banking School, which is a part of Batspa University in UK. She's also an academic advisor and lecturer of Buddhist studies at the Research Center for Pali and Buddhist Studies, which is also in the UK. She's also a very She's also founder for the Dhamma Renaissance, which is a website which focuses on modern Buddhism. I really uh, want everyone to go through that website because there are very beautiful articles. One of them is of her mother's, which is her organ donation story, and which is really inspiring. I think everyone should go through that. She's also author. Her one of her book is on the way, which will be out soon. She's also a debater. She has won multiple competitions in Malaysia and also in other Asian countries. She's also an economist. And uh, I, when I introduced her, I said Mrunal, but I would extend her name by saying Mrunal Madhuri Milind. She's very against of putting her surname because she feels that it's a male patriarchy system which is going on. But yeah, last but not the least, she's also finding her groom. So if anyone is interested, please reach out to her mother. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm not finding anyone as of now, but thank you for the introduction. Namo Buddhaya Jai Bhim. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation and giving me the opportunity to present my ideas on Buddhist economics. So, the topic for my today's discussion is the importance and relevance of Buddhist economics and business strategies for today's world. So, to begin with, the title Buddhist economics is itself highly debatable, controversial, and of utmost importance. So, now when I say debatable and controversial, it is because, first and foremost, we are linking it with Buddhism. And Buddhism, we often tend to associate with a sect, and that is religion, which in a way I do not agree, because Buddha's teaching do not fall on a particular event to call it a religion. It is described as a system of education. So therefore, it won't be wrong to link Buddhism with philosophical ideologies, let's say for ontology, epistemology, or metaphysics. But it will be inherently wrong just to constrain it to religion, or to just to put it and isolate it in with respect to religion. Secondly, when we speak of Buddhism, our understanding constrained towards an ideology that speaks about non-attachment, that speaks about nirvana or nibbana in Pali, that speaks about spirituality, that speaks about individual growth and individual progress and being non-materialistic. We usually envision a monk with a bowl who has separated from all the earthly desires, and who only wants to attain liberation, and we restrict them, and we do not understand their significance in society or in social values, and therefore it does not conform to our deeply rooted concept of economic system and activities. It appears unconventional to associate Buddhism or Buddha with economical activities like production, consumption, profit, accumulation of wealth, savings, loans, and even day-to-day transactions. And finally, Buddhist economists, which are very countable and very few, firmly believe that Buddhist economics can be the new paradigm of economical activities and economical model, because it challenges the intrinsic values of economics. It challenges the baseline of economics with with various rationals and scholarly arguments. So the entire field of Buddhist economics is very new, and therefore there isn't much required attention and academic discussion, and also very few countable Buddhist economists are working on pragmatic solution which can be derived from Buddhist principles and Buddhist ethics. So the first pioneering attempt to resurface Buddhist economics was done by Dr. Professor E.F. Schumacher. So he was an economist based in UK. However, he was born in Germany and he came to UK during World War time, during 1930s, 1932. So when he came to UK, he was accompanied by Keynesian School of Economics, where his entire economical ideas were based on. So Keynesian School of Economics was something he can resonate with, given the given the situation at that time. So in 1955, when he was a chief economic advisor, he was called to Burma, so present-day Myanmar, as an UN economic consultant. So he was called there with a focus to help Burmese government or Myanmar government develop its economy using technology, science, and advanced techniques, which are inherently understandable with Western economical concepts. So when he went there, within 3 months, he realized that Burma does not need any Western economical system, or they do not need any Western economical developmental concept. They have their own efficient and effective economical system, which is later known as Buddhist economics. So instead of giving any Western economical model to Burma, he took their economical model based on Buddhist economics and brought that back to UK and then presented in front of his colleagues, which of course was highly debatable at that time and highly challenged. So in 1973, he published his series of essays on Buddhist economics under the title Small is Beautiful, Economics as if People Mattered. However, his ideas were not welcome by many prominent management theorists and economists like Verma and Max Weber, who believe that Buddhism particularly do not understand how the entire world operates or how the economical system operates. They do not understand what exactly growth and development in real sense or in any centuries or in any or how companies should be operated. And therefore, they were very much against the entire concept and entire ideologies of Buddhist economics. However, during the same time, many economists were then thinking about some issues, some economical or some global issues that were happening during that time, which is a recession, or even they reevaluated the past economical crisis like Great Depression, which happened during 1929. They looked into the inflation, they looked into unemployment rate, they saw how environmental is degraded by the large companies, by the large industries. They also looked into some climate issues, so which made them introspect that if current economical system is well equipped, if it is well efficient, then why there are so many problems, why Western economic has failed so many times throughout so many years. So which made economists think if there can be any alternative economical model which can be used and which can be beneficial for people. So this stirred among economists and Buddhist scholars that venture around economics gained some level of tractions. So among this, one of the prominent Theravada Buddhist scholar who also received UNESCO Peace Prize for Education, that is Venerable Payutto. So he has been in Buddhist academia as a Buddhist scholar since I think since the age of 13. So he is based in Thailand. So in his book Buddhist Economics, A Middle Way for Marketplace, he linked Pali Canon, that is Theravada Buddhism, with economics. Because Schumacher, if we see Schumacher, although did a lot of extensive studies on Buddhist economics, however, his understanding of economics might be very vast, but his understanding of Theravada Buddhism or Buddhism in general was not equipped. So to call his economics a Buddhist economics, it was must for a Buddhist scholar to resonate his teaching with Buddha Vachana of what exactly Buddha said and and did Buddha really speak about economics? And even if he spoke about economics, can those economical ideas be implemented throughout years in 20th century, 21st century, even in after contemporary to our particular years? So, but even after so much discussion and even after so much deliberation, the question still arises, and that is what exactly is Buddhist economics, and how is it different from other Western economical concept which we have been seeing and we have been studying since so many years? So, to be honest, there isn't just one definition, because there is not a single sutta or single book that focuses on economical activities or how wealth should be managed and how it should be accumulated. Rather, it is spread across millions of segments which Buddha told over 40 years of him being arhat. So the basic understanding of economical activities can be formulated through Four Noble Truths and Noble Eightfold Paths, which was again one of the main argument of Skomasha, that because Buddhism has concept of right livelihood, which is one of the eighth path of liberation, it must have some principles related to economics as well, which is true, because if we see Noble Eightfold Path, we will understand that Buddha do not only just speaks about right livelihood, he is also speaking about right action. He is also speaking about right efforts. He is also speaking about right understanding. He's speaking about a right concentration, which in a way is linked with economics, which in a way can be used by businesses and by government to manage their policies and to make any kind of model. Whereas on the other hand, Venerable Payuto was more and more focused on Dhamma. So he said in his book, and I quote, that everything we connect with economics ultimately stems from Dhamma. Because Dhamma is the universal truth. Dhamma is a science. Dhamma is not constrained towards just a religion or towards just Buddhism. So therefore, all the economical activities which we carry forward has to have linked with Dhamma and has to have linked with Buddhist principles. So if we glance into some recorded words of Buddha or Buddha Vachana, we find many evidence of him imparting economic suggestions. Like, for example, in Karniya Metta Sutta, Buddha said, and he speaks about social values, where he says that for an individual, it is important to engage in economic activities and day to day living by abiding with social values, by abiding with humanitarian constraints, and by abiding with societal in general. Second, in another sutta, in Adhamika Sutta, he clarifies how righteousness and unrighteousness behavior can cause economic imbalance and social behavior. In Agana Sutta of Digha Nikaya, he focuses on how economic institutions are emerged as a result of immoral behavior, which injects greediness and antisocial behavior. In Vagayapajaya Sutta of Anguttara Nikaya, Buddha mentioned four types of behavior that enhances economic progress, like earning wealth by doing professionally well, doing savings, having healthy social life and morally acceptable associates, and finally having well-balanced income and outcome, that is through donation, that is through dana. Buddha has focused majorly on dana, and especially dhamma dana, because as it is said, sabbadanam dhammadanam jinati, in a way that Dhammadan surpasses all kinds of gifts and all kinds of danas. So Dhammadana has to have prominent importance in our life. However, one of the sutta of Digha Nikaya, which I purposely want to mention, and I was quite surprised when I read this particular sutta, because because after reading about this sutta, we understand that Buddha did not just provide some ethical principles or some ethical issues in Buddhism. He was also well versed with how finances and how accounting work in day-to-day life or in governance. So, so in Kuttatanta Sutta, it is said that during Buddha time, there was a princely state which was going through an economical crisis. So the king asked his minister to find some viable solution. So many ministers come up with some kind of ideas. Some proposed to have sacrifices of animals. Some told him to do some kind of rituals, some kind of havans to eradicate the economical crisis happening in that time. And king did perform each and everything. But one of his minister, Kuttadanta, who's the sutta who is based on, so he was not in agreement with that. So because he witnessed that even after carrying all such kind of activities, even after carrying all such kind of rituals and sacrificing of animals, the poverty is still increasing. People are still dying. There is still an antisocial behavior. There is still killing and stealing happening in the province. So he wanted to have some practical and some pragmatic solutions solution. So then he went to Buddha to ask for his opinion. And during that time, so just to mention that Buddha said all the suggestions 2600 years ago. So Buddha advised him that the king should provide capital and should provide loans and an open market salary fit for expenditure if one engages in public and private sector to produce more goods and services. And this account surely confirms that he possesses a vast understanding of economics. So the example which I provided is just few. There are millions of documented instances in Pali Canon that speaks of it. And even if not directly, but as Buddhism is related to, or Buddhism is associated with empirical realism, we can link those particular aspects, or we can link those particular principles and ethics to current system. And not just economical system, but there are instances where Buddha has spoken, highly spoken about how humanitarian law should be, how international relations should be, how governance should be, how politics should be, how politicians should operate, and also, of course, economics. So now, again, to reflect back, what exactly is Buddhist economics? So to understand what exactly is Buddhist economics, we need to understand how Buddhist economics is separated from Western economics or mainstream economics. Now, I won't be dwelling much in depth, but to provide just an overview. So the main goal of any economy, whether it is a macro economy, whether it is a national economy, or for small businesses, the main goal and the main aim is to have growth. So in Western economics, growth is calculated by GDP, that is gross domestic product, and GNP, that is gross national product. So in a nutshell, Western economist wants us to believe that the production is must to sustain an economy, and it's the primary factor to ensure that economy is running smoothly. So now if we see, as Buddhism says, that Buddhism is much more concerned with interconnectedness. It is much more concerned with how cause and conditions operates. So now if we see that when a production increases, there has to have a level of consumption. So, but companies want overproduction. Companies want more production to gain economies of scales and to gain economies of scope. So in order to gain economical benefit, they inject consumerism, they inject false advertisements, they inject false marketing ideas, so that the overproduction should be compensated with overconsumption as well. One of the bigger example of this can also be planned obsolescence, which speaks that even that the utility of a product decreases over time, even if the product is working properly. Like for example, how companies, they do some changes in their software, or do some changes in their model, and sell us for very high prices, which is one of the example of how companies and how government want to ensure that the economy is flowing, but but keeping aside social values, keeping aside how psychology or how human factors can define it. Now, if we again going back to GDP, now GDP is inclusion of everything. So it includes haircuts, it includes sales of alcohol, it includes cigarettes, it includes machineries, it includes car, governmental spending, which inflects consumerism, increase in fast food joints, increase in advertisement, pollution, and all the big buildings which we see today that are constructed compromising the environmental issues. So basically, GDP is consisting of everything, but things which actually values and which is the level of education. GDP do not include that. It does not include literacy. It does not include women empowerment. It does not include the labor cost. It does not include free press. It does not include freedom of expression, or how labor should be treated. So in a way, you can say that GDP includes everything, but things really matters. So in here, I would like to quote Senator Bobby Kennedy, who in 1968 said that too much and for too long, we seem to have surrendered personal excellence and community values in mere accumulation of material things. The quality, and yet GDP does not allow for health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry, the strengths of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debates, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion for country. It measures everything in short except what makes life worthwhile, which is evidently true because now we see that economic progress are, even though in numbers, the numbers are given more prominence than people living. Like for example, India has been counted as one of the fastest growing economy. It is in the same level as US, UK, Canada, and major economies. However, we know what exactly social situation in India is. There is still casteism. There are still students not getting proper education. There is still illiteracy rate. Women are not getting paid properly. So how are we compensating economical growth and not understanding the social issues which are most important for our day-to-day life, which are most important and which should be most important aspect for our survival? So, whereas on the other hand, Buddhist economics is based on Buddhist ethics, which is considered as moral phenomenology that focuses on relative and ultimate reality of how people engages in the world. It focuses on moral development. Now, although Buddhist ethics addresses some complex dilemmas and irrationalities, unlike Western economies, whose main policies are based on assumption that humans are rationals, which is inherently flawed because we know that humans do not take a rational decision. However, entire economical models and economical policies are made considering that human and people make a rational decision. Human make rational choices, whereas Buddhist economists understand that humans do not make rational choices. Humans make irrational choices, and they have irrationalities, and therefore ethics and moral obligation should be considered. Buddhist ethics share the same interest as Western economics on profitability. They, of course, speak about production. They, of course, speak that there should be profit, there should be material gain. However, the fundamental Buddhist values to solve such tangible issues should be made at highest importance. And Buddhist economics do speak on production, but they reject the idea of overproduction that fuels consumerism, overconsumption, or overutilization of natural resources. It do not focus on individual gains and profit, but rather it focuses on moderate production that foster community well-being and welfare over individual profits and individual gain. Now, herein, I would like to quote one philosopher. His name is Musonis Rufus. So, in his work Lectures, he mentions that the human being is born with an inclination towards virtue. That is, we all are made to help each other and be good to each other. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived as a species. This is unfortunately not viewed in Western economics. So the modern economics lacks the holistic and comprehensive insights, and limited by the narrowness of their specialized view. Economists single out one isolated portion of stream of condition and fail to consider results beyond a given point. Whereas Buddhist economics, on the other hand, efficiently understands the cause and condition that will understand economical activity in more ultimate and realistic view through the spheres of environment, society, and individuals. So Buddhist economics as a strategy works on minimizing framework, whereas business economics works on maximizing framework. So, minimizing framework in Buddhist economics actually paves a road towards a progressive, pragmatic economical system. So, the minimizing framework or the minimizing of suffering framework in Buddhist economics can be formulated through prospect theory given by Daniel Kahneman and Amy, in 1979. So, according to prospect theory, attitude towards losses is much greater than gain, and that is what Buddhist economics speaks about, that we should understand, that we should focus on how we can minimize our loss rather than maximizing our profit. And all of these are not just theories but have also been seen useful in past, that is during Buddha time, contemporary to Buddha time, and even in 21st century. So one of the account which I will be telling is Xuanzang, who is said as one of the greatest Chinese Buddhist scholar who traveled from China to India, and he was in India for around 13 to 16 years. So during 6th or 7th century, when he came from China to India, he was accompanied by many kings and many states which were governed by Buddhist kings and which were governed by Buddhist principles and philosophers. So in his account, he mentions two kings, which is King Kanishka and King Harsha. So he said that King Kanishka and King Harsha set a bar of how good governance system or how good economical progress can be done abiding with Buddhist principle. So the early literature of Buddhism can be traced and which involves economical development and community upliftment. Another such Chinese Buddhist scholar, Faxian, when he came to India during 5th century, he noted that even in 5th century, the King Ashoka's work, which he did in 3rd century, can still be witnessed. That after after 2 centuries, whatever King Ashoka did in Pataliputra, surrounding with whether it is regarding the social justice or how he was imparting free health care and public health care, can also be seen after 2 centuries. Unlike in today's world, where major economies are failing to provide basic health care to its citizen. Like for example, in UK, it takes us 18 weeks to have a proper appointment and consultations of GP. Another such example of 21st century we can speak about is Bhutan. Now, Bhutan, the development program of Bhutan focuses on gross national happiness, and which considers people before profit. So Amartya Sen, in one of his articles, The Contemporary Relevance of Buddhism in 2014, asserts that various developmental indices, that is Human Development Index or gross national happiness, have very close relevance to what Buddha taught 2600 years ago. And therefore he says that all these things makes Buddha closer to humans. Another such example will be Thai Lao community village in Thailand, which works on Buddhist principles, emphasizing on living morally, ethically, and socially. King Rama, the ninth of Thailand, who is also known as King Bhumipol, or famously known as People's King, used a self-sufficiency model in Thailand that focuses on moderation and self-reliance in economical development, and it also encourages people to work with generosity and to have care for each other. In Sri Lanka, I think in before 60 years, a Sarvodaya Shramadana movement started, which now currently have 15,000 villages, which again works on self-sufficient financing model and community development. It focuses on total awakening as guided by and as advocated by Buddha. So such macro level models challenges the Western and mainstream economics as they understand that what Buddha said. So Buddha said, and I quote, that the world is always lacking, unsatisfied, and slave to craving. Which he said, uno loco athito tanha daso. Another such instance where he said is, man is never satisfied just with the pleasure that he joys. Kamesu loka nahi atitithi. And this is same after 2000 after 2500 years ago. Economics is telling in an economical model known as law of diminishing marginal utility, where economics says is after certain time period, after passage of time, our pleasure and our and satisfaction of a particular utility decreases, which is evidently true. Because, for example, if I buy a car today, I will be very happy. With second car, I'll be more happy. Maybe with third car, I'll be happy. But after fourth and fifth car, there will be a stagnation. It won't make me happy. It won't make me satisfied. And after stagnation, there will be a point of decline. There will be a point that even adding more cars will only make me sad, will only give me displeasure, and which is another reason of dukkha, which is why craving or clinginess, or we call it tanha in Pali, should be eliminated. Now, even though Buddhist scholars and economists or Buddhist economists have gathered sufficient data on theoretical aspect and application of how Buddhist economics might work, there is still a lacuna to prove it empirically and to test such models and to find feasibility in such applications in a 21st century. So there is a need to have more research in a domain that how the current economical framework also can be said as economical framework does not conform the sustainability and can only make mankind more worse, and therefore there has to be more and more studies and more understanding of Buddhist economics, because it is said to be the future economics, which is said to be the paradigm of new economical system. So to order to build to bridge the gap, my doctorate research is focusing on Buddhist economics, Buddhist economics, and is aimed to provide sustainable profitability model and a scale to measure economical progress of companies using Buddhist principles. So it focuses on small and medium-sized enterprises, offering them an comprehensive business strategies and profitability model through quantitative and empirical analysis, considering Buddhist ethics and Buddhist principles. So this is the first research globally that will be critically assess Buddhist economics and business strategies, allowing and providing a model that can be used in 21st century. So yeah, just to wrap up, now Buddhist economics is considered as social dimension that cannot be isolated, unlike Western economics. It isn't just concerned with individual happiness or individual growth or individual profit or private destiny, but it rather it speaks about interconnectedness and how interconnected lives and consciousness of living beings are important. So the holistic approach emphasizes the intrinsic link between personal liberation and well-being of society as a whole, rather than constraining it to just a small, constraining it to just a business unit. And it also focuses on karma and community and services. So yeah, this is something. This is an overview of what Buddhist economics is. Of course, there is much more research has been done over the years, and there is so much data to prove Buddhist economics actually work in businesses and in company and in economy. But this is just a basic introduction of how Buddhist economics is and what Buddha said about Buddhist economics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrunal, for sharing your valuable insights. If anyone has question, please raise your hand, type your question in the chat box, or unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah, Satyanath please go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, I joined in the middle. I started hearing you right from 11 o'clock. You had started a little earlier, but whatever I heard was really jewel. I mean, really wonderful. I was wondering if you have written any book or something we could get hold of.
No, currently I'm doing my PhD doctorate, so I haven't written any book on this particular topic, nor I have done any, nor I have published any research articles. However, I'm working on a book on Buddhist economics. I have completed 3 chapters, but yes, I'm still working on it. Probably by next year, I should be able to publish it.
Is there anything you can share publicly right now or personally with people, or
regarding book, are you talking?
Book or any material that you can share with people privately or publicly?
Yes, of course I can do. If you can send me an email, I can share you all the relevant material to Buddhist economics.
I would love to have your contact information. Please put it in the chat.
Yes, sure.
And it was really, really wonderful, presentation, and I learned a lot from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have one question for you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Quickly introduce yourself also. We just also wants to know where are you from and where are you?
Yes. My name is Praveen Gorkhade. I am from Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India. And we are having an organization named Samyak Education and Welfare Society, We are working among underprivileged children from past 8 years. We have adopted 300 underprivileged children for their education. So some doing PhD, some doing MBBS, some doing engineering, like that.
Good,
They
good.
all
Thank you.
belong from the slums. So my question to you is that since you are explaining about the Buddhist economy, do you think that the Buddhist economy is practical if the people are not following dana, shila, bhavana, and not having santuti means satisfaction? Because you have also said that in Buddhism they have also talked about the consumption, and there is also a limitation of consumption that one should understand. So without practicing the core teaching of Buddha, that is meditation, do you think that the society uh, throughout the throughout the globe will be able to um, implement Buddhist economy in a practical way? My question is that.
Yeah, so there has been a long-standing debate in academia that whether this Buddhist economics should be actually called as Buddhist economics, because we are again linking it with religion. But as you said, that if we are not following some basic principles given by Buddha, whether it is through vipassana or meditation, or to follow the full eighth noble fold path, but in a way, Buddhist economists will still work given a proper model and proper alignment of what exactly companies should be doing and what exactly they should be doing. Because now what we understand by how the entire economy work is we are told to operate in certain way for so many years. So even if human psychology is not to do that, but because we are told deliberately multiple times that this is something which should be happening and which should be doing, has made us think about that. But of course it can be applied practically, because there are companies in Vietnam, in Thailand, also in Sri Lanka, which are using Buddhist principles, which even if not everyone is Buddhist, but then just using Buddhist principle for operational purposes can still ensure that Buddhist economics is practically viable. And that is again my entire research is, where I want to practically and empirically prove that Buddhist economics can actually work.
Okay, thank you.
Vivek, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mrunal. It was a wonderful presentation. And the question I have, since you are studying this in the economic area, I see you talking about the Buddhist economy. The world has all different economic when it comes to the notion of a religion. So my question is, how do you see in the current trend where living apart that Buddhist economy is a way of a success? How do you differentiate the economy which is like in India, like the Hindu economy? Would you consider one that part, or the in the Western part, like if you come to UK or America, where the Bezos or all this Facebook, Microsoft, all these are the successful economy as well. They're part of the successful economies. How do you differentiate, and which model the people in India, like, when we are following the Buddha's teachings, which model should we work on, because, end of the day, your success is measured, how empowered you are economically, I believe, and that is also your strength comes out of it, because if you're wealthy, you are well recognized, you have the power behind you, and in all that nature, how do you differentiate? And the second part of the question is, should we really, as a Ambedkar at a Buddhist community, should follow the economic trend which are extremely successful in India, like Adani, Ambani, or come to the West, following Amazon's model?
Yeah, so to answer that, first of all, when we speak about such global businesses like like Meta or Ambani or Adani, we only are thinking about how economically they have progressed. We are not thinking about, because of them, what are the degradation happening, how the workforce has been treated, or what are the other factors which are considered. Now, Buddhist economics do not say that you shouldn't have profit. Of course, Buddhist economics speaks about profit, because Buddha in one of his verses has said that we cannot attain spirituality unless and until we have sufficient income, unless and until we have money. But then Buddhist economics do not focus on having too much. It doesn't focus on on having a lot of everything. It focuses on having something for sustain, but also having things for investment and for savings, so that we do not get clinginess towards overutilization or over desired thing. Now, unfortunately, there isn't any model as such, and as I said, this is a very new field. This has only been curated in 1973, and this is a very new field, and there are still scholars who are working in providing business strategies. There are scholars who are working on formulating a model, which again my doctorate research is, which is again to make a model for small and medium-sized businesses. But yes, Buddhist economics has a pragmatic solution. It can be used in businesses, and it can also be used for large multinational companies to work on.
Can I ask you just the follow-up questions? Like you were talking
Yeah.
about the Vietnam model, like where the Vietnam being a Buddhist nation, I guess by default, the people who are the businessmen would be the Buddhist followers, right? Like similarly, the people in India, most of them are Hindu followers. So the Hindu spirituality comes in their practices also. You can see the reflections when they the danas and all that thing in the temples, And so I think, uh, is it like a right way to know, like, put a notion that the being as a Buddhist, Vietnam is a Buddhist nation, or Thai as a Buddhist nation, should reflect that they are the successful businessmen, so it is a Buddhist economy?
Well, not entirely true, because even Japan is a Buddhist country, but then still it has so many principles which goes against Buddhism. It still follows, like there is a recent news where Japan was inflecting the grades of female doctors so that more male doctors should come. So Buddhist economics does not link with a particular country. Although my research is focused on Theravada countries, but it is not constrained towards just Theravada country. Even if we speak of India as well, now we do know that majority of the population is Hindu, but India is also a land of Buddha, where the Buddhism truly originated. So we cannot, we shouldn't link the economical principles of Buddhism and constraint towards a country, because it is something which can be used by anyone, by any country. And just to mention that there is this one Yogyakarta in Indonesia. So it's a state which is run by a Muslim king. However, their economical policies and their entire governance works on Buddhist principles. So just because it is governed by Muslim country, it does not operate on Islamic finance, but it operates on Buddhist economics.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And I think I really like the areas that you have chosen. Which has the practical implications. It's just the way whether the people really implement it, and when it's done, it really works well. I think I'm just being a practical person in the part of my business practices as well, and this really helps out. It has its own way of notion where the pleasure comes to you when you think that the right earning, that was one of the part of this, that you're not taking something that doesn't belong to you, give the rightful shares to the people that work for you. I think it's really practical. It's just the way the world is going, in today's time, where even among our community as well, when you would see this cause that you are talking about, because there's the economical aspect to it, people would come and try to understand. But the moment something else is coming, where the money is not talked, people will not come to you. Okay, so I think the topic that you have chosen is important, and I really appreciate you talking about the Buddhist economy. So I wish you well and hope you do well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mahendraji, you raise the hand and you drop it. Please go ahead. Next.
Yes, thank you, Mrunalji. Very informative and presentation, and you delivered it just perfect. We'll look forward to hear more from you. I do not have a question, but just a comment that there is a question about some books and information about Buddhist economics. Even in today's world, Buddhist principles are looks like they're getting practiced in terms of economical advancements as well. One of the very popular entrepreneur and investor, Ken Honda, has written many books on that. Happy Money is one of the very popular book, which talks about Buddhist principles and how they can be applied towards creating wealth in a happy way. When it touches the same subject as in the decade, making money cannot be looked up as something which is harming the human emotion. Uh, it can be done in a peaceful way as well. So just in case if someone wants to kind of pursue this further, probably I think that's a one interesting book to kind of go through. Thank you.
Tushar, please go ahead.
Hello, Ronald. Hi. Uh, I remember once we were having a discussion about Buddhist economics versus how things run in corporate. And after that, I thought about that there were people before who were using social, what do you say, leftist economic, like social, I don't remember, Marxist kind of economy, and then we came to capitalism. So, do you think in coming days, are there any chances of moving towards the Buddhist economics? Because once I was in conversation with Dr. Thorat sir, and he was also explaining me about that, and then he told me that there can be chances of having this because it's a monk life and something like that. So, what do you feel about this? How long do you think it will take for all this to change from socially to and then to Buddhist economics?
Well, I do think that Buddhist economics, of course, have a potential to be a new system of economics. It's just that it will take lots of time, but there are a lot of economists and there are lots of conversations happening that how the current economical system is feeling. So even today, there are people and there are economists who are going against the conventional ideas of economics. So the alternate and the only option which they have to surpass such conventional economical ideas is Buddhist economics. It's just that there are very few scholars and there are very few economists working in this domain. So it will, of course, take some time to resurface it and to make sure that, and also to have like a proper path as to what exactly is Buddhist economics, how can it be operated, how it can be linked, because most of the theories studies even now are only done theoretically. There are very few who has done some empirical research. So yeah, I do think in coming years, maybe like in coming decades, Buddhist economics will have a full-fledged potential to be in that level. And yeah, it can challenge and it can change the capitalism and the capitalistic ideas.
Good, good. Manish, please go.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mona.
Hi, Mrunal. This is Manish, based out in New Jersey. I actually work in IT. So I want to ask question about the sustainability. You mentioned somewhere about sustainability, and we are in this global crisis, global warming, and United Nations has put together 16 sustainability goal, in which you also mentioned like clean energy, gender equality, and there are many others. And this falls in, when I read about them, after so many years, we have realized these are actually the Buddha principle which are being laid out. So in your research study, are you looking at any of this principle and how that can be mapped with the Buddha's ideologies?
Yes, I am considering some sustainability ideas because even today we have corporate social responsibilities working in companies. We have ESG models, we have sustainable and governance model. However, we are also seeing greenwashing. We are also seeing multiple various aspects where companies are deliberately changing the entire social standing. So in my research, I am considering sustainability as one of the aspects. However, it is more and more focused on SMEs of as to how they can gain profitability considering the Buddhist principles.
Yeah, that is really nice. Actually, when we go for a presentation, one of the first thing which every company is looking at, what are your sustainability goals? So every company, every corporate, every IT, whether it comes to manufacturing or operation, they are looking at sustainability goals. So it would be really nice to bring in the Buddhist philosophy angle into this. Thank you. Very nice presentation, by the way.
Thank
This
you.
was very well studied and research to, and especially about the suttas which you mentioned. That is really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrunal, and thank you for joining today. I do have one quick question that as you and all of you know that in Indian history, we are called like Chanakya. Chanakya is the father of our Indian economics kind of, and a lot of Hindu people follow his economics principle. So in the Buddhist, do you have any monks or any researcher or scholars or anyone that we can follow his ideology, or is there any?
Yeah, actually, the issue is when Buddha gave all this vachana, after centuries, those were recorded. There are some monks and there are some scholars who are working on this. As I said, Venerable Payutto is one of them, who is one of the prominent person who is working in Buddhist economics. However, he is linked with more Theravada Buddhism. But there is also Dhammakirti, who was one of the a teacher in Nalanda University and many other lecturers. However, there isn't just one recorded book where we can find, like how we can find Chanakya Niti or Kautilya Arthashastra. We cannot find something like that in Buddhism yet.
So there is no recorded theory or recorded suttas or anything else that is available.
No. There is recorded, like in Pali Canon, like in Theravada is all recorded version of Buddha Vachana, but there isn't just one economist or one monk who is speaking about all these things.
Okay. That's a good thing. Another follow-up question on this. As you know, the declining Buddhism in India is follow the economic decline. Many of this, the Buddhism explored when there was a kings. They used to, give a dana, big danas to the monks and the sanghas kind of. But once that is downfall, the Buddhism got downfall. And the same thing recently happened in the Sri Lanka also. When the Sri Lankan economy got fall, the Buddhism got fall. So what is your thought on that? I mean, is it mainly depends on our economics value principles, or also depends on our social principle, religious follow?
I think we cannot separate everything which comes with religion with economics. There has to be linked. Although I do not consider Buddhism as religion, as I said, it is like a value system of education for me. But as we see, decline, whether it is in Sri Lanka, even in certain level in Cambodia, which happened, in India, which is happening, it is of course something because the community isn't much strong enough to actually refute that, and there has to be more academician in Buddhist economics and in Buddhism studies to be speaking of this, because even now, and even we know that most of these Buddhist people, we either go for doctorate or either for doctors or for engineers and so on and so forth, and there isn't much people who are focusing on Buddhist studies. Same in UK, like there are so many people focusing on Islam studies, Christian studies and Hindu studies, but there are countable like 3 or 4 who are focusing on Buddhist studies. So if we are not educating us enough to use Buddhist principle in current situation, our changes won't work, because we will still be linking all the Buddhist ideas with theoretical aspect and not or with the historical aspect, and not something which can be used in day-to-day life. So we need more researchers and more scholars to resurface all these ideas and to make sure that these ideas have practical and 21st century relevance as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful answer there. Anything else, members? Any questions? Last question, we can take it.
Yeah, there's a question from YouTube.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is from Sanjay Khandagale. He's asking, I'm working on a Buddhist management techniques, and your subject can be easily related to sustainability. So he's asking, do you think the movement on sustainability, carbon neutrality, can be expedited through Buddhist economics?
Yes, of course. There is this one book by Ajahn, which was published in Amravati Buddhist Monastery in UK, which is known as Buddha Nature, Human Nature. Buddha Nature, Human Nature, which speaks about all such kind of, such kind of sustainable ideas, but mainly focusing on environment. But yes, when we speak about sustainability or management or any other aspect, or even organizational strategies and organizational behavior, each and everything can have Buddhist relevance, because again, Buddhism is based on empirical realism, where we can formulate and where we can link those ideas.
Some people is asking some questions, Mrunal. Is there any blogs or anything that you are writing the people can follow up? Do you want to put in the chat box, like any blogs or any social media?
Yes, I do have my website.
Okay.
The Dhamma Renaissance, which focuses on modern contemporary
You can
issues.
put it in the chat box so that we will not make a mistake, or
Okay, I'll do that.
That would be great. Yeah. So people like to follow and connect. Thank you.
Meanwhile, I just wanted to add here a very nice topic, Mrunal. Our economics is a very important thing, and I remember like we have a history of trade. Basically, Buddhism has a history of trade, and we were exporter at the time of Buddhas, and that was and you very correctly pointed out, if you want to earn profit, that should be have some limitation, and then you mention all other impact of that. So yeah, I'm really like right now when I see all these things, what message you can give to the new entrepreneur and startups, because I don't know whether they will follow all these, or how you look at this as a researcher.
So as a researcher and also as an economic student, I feel that entrepreneurs are mainly focusing on short-term profit. They are only focused on how they can earn money as quickly as possible, and they are losing the entire focus of how their action can contribute in long-term viability of a company. So rather than focusing on short-term issues, they should focus on long-term understanding. And this long-term understanding is what again Buddhist principle says is that of course you should have profit. You cannot sustain without money. You cannot sustain without material goals or material gains. But the limitation and how and what exactly you are doing to earn that is something like the right effort and right action and right livelihood should be our primary goal, because that is what will help you in long term.
Yeah, thank you.
Here I want to add one thing. Kindly, if possible, read Ratha Vinitya Sutta. There also how one individual should manage all the things. They have explained with the example of Bante Punna, 10 qualities of a good monk or 10 qualities of a good person. So that can be a good qualities, 10 good qualities of a good society also. So you can go through that also. If people follow that, maybe the greed they are having of earning more and consumption, that can be bring to certain limitation, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Kajal, please go ahead. Continue.
Oh, yes, sir. So anyone have to ask any question? Okay. As we conclude our online Buddha Vihara session, I want to thank you Bhante Shri Shivali for his enlightening Dhamma talk, Arohi Kulkarni for kids session, and special thanks to Trusha Padwekar and our guest speaker Mrunal Dupte. Thank you to all participants who joined today. We hope to see you next week as well. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you. Namo Buddhaya and Jai Bhim.
Thank you everyone for joining today. And thank you, Mrunal, for your great presentation.
Thank you.